What's up, people? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Today is a big day. It's football day. It's about 10 minutes before the game starts, and I'm pretty pumped to find out who's going to the Super Bowl. Of course, my heart is broken that my Bills did not make it. But hey, we played good, and I'll say the same thing I say every year, but I'm actually starting to believe it maybe next year. But anyways, welcome back. Today, we're going to learn how to do a really nice skin fade with that really smooth transition, and I'm going to try to break it down to you as simple as possible. I'm going to bring up the chart. I got a couple things that I think I might have left out in some other videos, and I'm pretty excited to get started, so let's go. Alright, YouTube, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I got another one here for you today. I have a number 4 on top, and I'm going to do a mid skin fade. So, you see me leading my clipper with my comb, letting it fall right into that number 4 attachment that I have placed on my 5-0. Yes, it can cut a lot faster than most of your average clippers. I'm going to put in my skin line. I don't always hold the clipper like that. I did that so that the video can show without me getting in the way too much. Kind of hard to film yourself, you know, but anyways, I'm trying to share this with you. So I'm going to begin at the temple. I'm going to drop down to about just above the occipital bone because I want to give myself some room to make a really smooth transition from the occipital bone to that first collet. And in the back, there's a little bit more space than there is on the side. Let's use it. So I'm going to do this whole haircut 360 degrees. I didn't cut anything out but the filler, and I want you to see every single step that I have in this process. So we're working our way around this left side now, just cleaning out everything. And I think one of the most important things that you guys can use right now to help yourself is understand how the chart works. So let's bring the chart up real quick. Chart up, okay? If you don't understand how this works, I want you to go ahead and stop this video right now. Go back to my last video that I just posted. I did a pretty good in-depth analysis on how all your guards will work together with each other. And it's really going to help you understand what we're talking about here. The other thing, and one of the reasons I think people have so much trouble trying to learn how to do a good fade is this. They're not holding the clipper flat. Some of these guards have a bend in them. Okay, actually most of these guards have a bend in them. There is a specified distance that the manufacturer tries to make, whether you're using Wall, whether you're using Andis, whether you're using one of the other clippers. Okay, the manufacturers have done a lot to try to make sure that you have the exact distance correct. And when you manipulate that distance by holding the clipper up or holding the clipper down, that's not the distance that they set for you. Another problem people run into is they leave the head too much when they're cutting the hair, and that can cause a lot of issues too. So if you use the head and you anchor on the head, you're going to have less problems. Problem number 1, you might not understand the process. If that's the case, you need to check out this chart. This chart's going to show you everything you need to know. And if you don't understand the chart, please refer to my previous video where I did a really in-depth analysis on how all your guards work together. And if you get lost or if you don't understand something, that's where you need to look first. But if you do understand the chart and we want to go forward with it, the only other thing that might hurt your fade or might give you trouble is that you're not holding the guards flat. I have a few guards here. I want to show you something. You see that this blade is curved, right? So when I put it on the clipper, okay, if I hold it flat, I'm not doing nothing here. This is not what the intended length on the manufacturer, okay? The manufacturer has created the perfect amount of space for this clipper to work properly. So all of these guards work together and they work together properly. So if you're not holding it flat, part of the problem is you're not going to get the length that was intended by the manufacturer. So if this blade is flat, this is actually holding the blade flat. Another problem that I see people doing is they leave the head too much when they cut hair. They're doing this, or they think they're scooping, and they're never actually getting it down flat and actually getting out that area. It's going to feel like you're going over the same part over and over and over again, but you're not. Trust me. You're making little changes, and even though they're hard to see, you're going to have to trust the process, okay? So let's look at another clipper blade. Okay, here's your number 1. Again, a slight curve, which means that flat is actually here. okay? Because if I hold it flat here, I'm not getting the intended length on the manufacturer, okay? And last one I'm going to show you real quick, not to beat a dead horse, but this is a number 3. Okay, so obviously we know not to hold it like this. Now it becomes more apparent how we're supposed to hold it, but you got to think about that when you're doing this hair. The cut, you see me here using the electric shaver. In the electric shaver process, I'm coming up the side of the head, okay, and I'm going against the grain from the bottom, and I'm wiping out all that hair down here by holding it against the grain. As I get to the top, I'm going to begin releasing some of my tension, and I'm going to begin kind of flicking out. I do not want to run it into that line that I just put with the 5-0. I want to make sure that I start coming down with it, with the grain. That's going to soften any lines that I might make. Using the corner might help a little bit, but I want to make sure that that transition from skin to 5-0 is perfect and it's flawless before I move on. You have to be thorough with this process. Now, I'm beginning with an open taper, lever in the open position, and I'm going to make a second guideline, and I'm going to go around the whole head. I'm giving myself about 1 inch in this case because I have it, and I'm going to take a little bit more in the back because I have the space to work with. And this is kind of key. Once we get rid of that first line that we put in, okay, and we got the second line going, this is where you're really going to see the fade. This is where the eyes are going to go and look for lines, and that's where it's going to look clean, okay? So after I put in this guideline all the way around with the open taper, one important thing is that I want to make sure that it's the same on both sides, because if I put in this open taper guideline higher than this on one side than it is on the other, I'm going to begin my fade kind of wrong to start out with. We got to start out with a solid foundation so we can get a solid haircut out of it. So moving up, now I'm beginning to close my taper lever in, and as soon as I do that, I put it on an angle, and I never want to go higher than that other line. That's what's nice about this process, is it keeps you right in the space, because I know I can't go higher than that, otherwise the whole fade is going to have to come up. So as I'm working in this area, I'm keeping it on an angle. I'm keeping it on an angle, or I'm just using the corner. As soon as I begin closing that, I start maintaining those angles so that I don't run into any problems with making another line and having to begin the whole process again, but higher. So think about what you're doing. Every time you close the lever, stay a little bit lower than you were before, okay? So as I go down, I'm keeping it on an angle, and I'm closing the lever down, and as you can see, I'm beginning to wipe out the initial line that I put in, and you're gonna see the transition is starting to look smooth. Again, I'm going to preach, be thorough, make sure that you finish this process before you move on. Do not grab your next guard and start running into that other hair until this is completely done. Otherwise, it's going to be really easy for you to get lost or potentially make the fade too high on one side than it will be on the other. Another thing I don't think I did a great job of explaining in some of my other videos is haircutting is not a one-size-fits-all. You're going to have to learn a lot of different ways to do this, because with some customers, it's going to be more efficient to use this process, and then other customers you might find it easier to use another process to do the fade. So in this case, this is a very easy way to do it. I'm going to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. What I'm doing is I'm putting in the guideline with it open, and then I'm wiping out all the stuff underneath it as I begin to close it gradually, never going higher than I put in with that guideline. The next step that you're going to see me use, I'm going to use the 0. Put the 0 on, or the 1/16 if you're using wall, okay? I'm going to begin with it open, and I'm going to make another guideline, all right? And it's going to be the same on both sides of the head. Then I'm going to begin closing the lever and staying just underneath that new guideline that I made until all my transition from the bottom to that new guideline is smooth. Then I'm going to begin with the 1. I'm going to open it. I'm going to go up a little bit higher. I'm going to make another guideline. When I do that, you're going to see another weight line up there, and we're going to get rid of that as I begin to close it, again keeping it on an angle or using my corners, and I'm going to start to bring that right on down, and that's going to start to smooth the entire process out. I'll do the same thing with the number 2, and if necessary, I would do it with a number 3 as well. All right, I'm now using the 0. I have the taper open, and I'm going around the whole head, and I'm putting in another guideline. And you can see it's starting to soften up. The fade is starting to come out a little bit, and little by little, you're going to see it start to get better. But before I even begin trying to get out the guideline, I want to make sure that the new weight line, or the new guideline that I'm putting in, is the same on both sides of the head. This is like really easy to keep track of because you can keep looking at it. Okay, if you put a new weight line in, make sure it's the same on both sides of the head, and then go to town taking out the line like I'm doing right now. I begin closing it and I start keeping it on an angle. Try to go against the grain as much as you can because that's going to remove the most amount of hair, and that's going to allow you to use your clipper guard for everything it's worth, meaning the distance. That's going to keep your distance correct. So going against the grain is going to take the most amount of hair. Going across the grain is going to take less, and going with the grain is going to take substantially less. So this can kind of help you too, because once in a while you might use that to your advantage. So again, I'm coming in with the corners, I'm using the half, and I'm starting to wipe out most of my line. You can see that you're done with this process when it looks very smooth and there is no extra work. And if you have to, go back one step before you go forward so that you don't get lost, because you know exactly what to use right now. We're only working with a few variables here, so there's only one other step that you might have to go back to at this point, and that's the open taper. So if I still have some kind of line right now, I would go back to the open taper immediately before I went any further. I would stop what I was doing and I would go back. But everything in this case looks really good. I've been really thorough and I haven't had to go back at all. So I'm going on with my next step. Number one, open. See me concentrating on going against the grain right now because you can see his grain pattern is kind of coming down, all right? And I want to meet that against the grain so that I can get the most that I can and that these blades can be working together efficiently the way that they were intended to work by the manufacturer. The distance is set up for you to succeed. The only thing stopping you from succeeding is not understanding the process. And if you do understand the process, you're going to find this a whole lot easier. You're going to do fades better than I do them, okay? Or the next man. There's no reason why everybody can't do good work. And if you use this process, you're going to find it really easy to do. So again, I just finished my guideline on both sides with the one open, and now I'm going to begin closing the number one. And some of you out there might even think that it's starting to become almost done. It's starting to look really smooth. Things are falling into place, but there's still a little bit more work to do. We're going to do the little bit with the number two. And after I'm done with the number two, I just got a little bit of cleanup to do. I'm going to use my straight razor. I got plenty of videos on shaving, and I got plenty more to come. So, please stay tuned. I'm going to do a little down fade for the beard. Check it out. I think the fade came out pretty clean. I think you're really going to like this process. I want you to go and try it as soon as you can, because watching and doing are two different things. So anyways, if there's something out there that you're struggling with, if there's something that I'm not saying or that I'm not explaining a little better, please tell me in the comments. Give me some video ideas, something that you want to learn, something that you want to know, something that I can explain. I would be more than happy to help you. I'm out here trying to help people, and I really want you to succeed. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. I appreciate all the feedback, and high five over the miles, and we will see you in the next video. I'm out.